I think I'm older than everyone here except for Darla, so I'm going to give you a very brief tour through my intellectual itinerary over the last 10 years. So in 2007, I went to law school here at Ohio State. I went thinking that I was going to change the world and was quickly disabused of the idea that law was the best way to do that. But I learned some interesting things in law school. I learned that law is like this vast, impersonal set of rules that are opaque to almost everyone, and that law, while it is about fairness, is also really about power. And those are things that even after I left that stayed with me. So I left in 2010. I graduated into the worst job market ever in the history of anything for any career, I think, since the Great Depression. And I ended up working at this think tank at OSU called the Kerwin Institute. While I was there, I did a lot of work on affordable housing, educational equality, and I think what I learned the most at Kerwin was like systems thinking, just the idea that when you're studying a phenomenon, it's useful to isolate it, but it's always really a better idea to think about its broader connections to the world. So like when we studied a community and we were looking at opportunities in Columbus, it's not just about housing, it's also about education and it's about neighborhood poverty. So when I was at Kerwin, systems thinking was really important for me and how I thought about the world. However, the think tank pay was really terrible and I decided to leave for the private sector. Oh, now I'm totally forgetting about my PowerPoint. This is Kerwin, but we can leave it aside. Where'd the point go?
Oh, it's on the...
Oh. So anyway, I left Kerwin and I ended up at this place called Klarna, which is the Swedish PayPal. And ostensibly it's a mobile payment company. Basically, it's kind of like a website or an app that allows you to enter in just a little bit of information and buy something very quickly. I was the compliance officer for Klarna, and my role was basically to make sure that we weren't lending money to terrorists and money launderers. I did this for a couple of years, and at the end of it, I just kind of had a crisis of like, what am I doing here? What is the point of this? Why is it my job to make people, or to help people spend their money as quickly as possible on things that I don't care about? And so I decided I needed to figure out something else to do with my life. And like anyone else in the world, I really felt very strongly about climate change. And I wanted to really take a sort of abrupt shift in my life to focus on something else. And so I decided to apply to PhD programs in a place where I could incorporate my prior training in law with the physical sciences. And that's something that's really important to me, is incorporating disparate perspectives in my work. And that's why I came back here. The other thing that I'm super interested in is comparison, particular comparison with China. Sort of on a lark, about 3 years ago, I started learning Chinese in Columbus, and I fell in love with the country and the language. And going forward, I'm really, really interested in comparing China with the US, these two countries that have a lot of people, a lot of land, produce a lot of CO2 emissions, have all these kind of similar scalar problems. And I'm strongly interested in comparing how the US deals with its environmental problems and comparing it to how China deals with theirs in similar places, but with very, very different political economic systems.
Compliments for Brooks.